One of my biggest fears for this DLC was the potential loss of that sense of wonder and awness that the base game offered every time we would discover a new environment in the lands between. This fear quickly proved to dissipate, since the variety and uniqueness of each and every single one of these environments was enough for me to keep wanting to see more of what the Land of Shadow has to offer us, from the mystical gravesite plains to the thunderous rage of the jagged peaks, the unease of the abyssal woods, the serenity of the Cerulean coast, all the way to the melancholy of the shaman village. The sheer amount of thought and work put into these regions, with a clear, tremendous amount of lore attached to every single piece that you see, even though I can't fully grasp its complexity, makes all of this feel real and memorable. And yes, even you, Poison Swamp. I do sense a strong resemblance to Shadow of the Colossus. Very few games manage, in my view, to capture a world where very few words need to be uttered for one to comprehend the magnitude and importance of what is at stake in this world. Shadow of the Colossus is a game about struggle, a game about overcoming all the odds of facing Goliath himself several times, but it's also about facing the inevitable consequences of your actions. And every time you defeat a Colossus, it reminds you that there is no escape. No matter how you attempt, you will face those consequences in the end. There is a lot to be said about Shadow of the Colossus and Fumito Ueda and how it influenced Miyazaki and the way that he tells his stories. But that will be a subject for another video, so make sure you subscribe to see that. A lot of these areas seem to be always attached to the story of a specific boss that we fight at the end stage of exploration of said area, as a point of climax to the region. One great example on this is Midra, the Lord of the Frenzied Flame. The entire section of the abyssal woods in Midra's Manse are a beautiful, well-crafted melding between boss design and environments that have been influenced by its story. From the moment you enter the abyssal woods and face its eerie vibe with its long and never-ending dead trees that look like they can even reach the sky, even though we are underground, its lack of life, the fact that even Torrent doesn't want to come out since it's afraid, the stealth sequence that we must complete against the Untouchables, and then when you finally reach Midra's Manse, you are greeted with numerous bodies outside its entrance. A closer inspection and we can see that they must have been impaled by someone as a form of execution, a potential warning to anyone who dares to enter. Once inside the manse, you realize how massive it is, and how it looks abandoned and mostly only spirits run across its halls. We also realize that whoever Midra is, he must be a very wise person, with deep and valuable knowledge about a variety of matters, since the whole manse is filled with burned books. After fighting your way through the manse, you finally face what looks to be Midra, and realize that he has become the Lord of the Frenzied Flame, and face him in an amazing fight. One of the best in Elden Ring in my view. This is something that Elden Ring base game and DLC do masterfully. Some more effective than others, sure, but bosses like Midra are a reminder of how good From Software is in bringing game, level, environment, character, and lore all into this great piece. On the other hand, unfortunately, there are quite a few bosses that I would argue to be on the other side of the coin. It's no secret that From Software likes to reuse content from previous games, and that is more than fine to do. Though I would start to be a little bit more cautious and mindful on how to use these. In this DLC there are, yet again, a number of dragons that you can fight, which are essentially reskins of the dragons you already fought 5 or 6 times in the lands between, and honestly, I had no interest in fighting them yet again. There's also the case of the Dancing Lion, Bale the Dread, or Matir Mother of Fingers that do look visually stunning with some awesome animations, visual effects, a ton of world building and lore attached to them via environments and NPCs. To me, the problem with these is the actual fighting. Maybe this is because of my love for Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, in which the vast majority of the fights are actually against humanoid figures. And I do realize that some of my favorite fights in this DLC and in Elden Ring are against those humanoid sort of figures. I do struggle a lot whenever I fight one of these giant creatures. It always feels like a struggle against both the boss and the camera. You question a lot of the times their hitboxes, and just overall, I don't feel as engaged or having as much fun when I'm battling humanoid forms of bosses. Ever since this DLC released, a lot has been said regarding its difficulty, and after finishing this game, I can confidently say that yes, this game is hard, and that's how a game like this should and needs to be. From Software Games, I've always wanted to give you this idea of struggle in order to achieve a certain objective. Lose that and you lose the spirit of what a Souls-like game is. The only boss that I think deserves to be talked about is Promised Concert for Dawn, and it did surprise me that such a boss, that I would even compare it to Malenia in terms of difficulty, would be a boss that you are required to defeat in order to beat the DLC, while Malenia is optional. I think the problem is that a lot of the discourse about the difficulty of this game seem to be more on bosses like Rallana and Mesmer, which I just simply disagree. Along with Midra, Rallana and Mesmer are incredibly well-made fights. And honestly, it's a shame that Rallana didn't get a little bit more love with, for example, a cutscene or some voice acting attached to her. Since voice acting in this game is yet again something that they absolutely nail. Both a great job from the voice actors and also the people who directed and guided these voice actors. Minimal yet powerful is how I would describe the lines shared by NPCs and bosses to us, the foul tarnished. It's just one of many ways that Elden Ring finds to deliver to us its minimalistic yet convoluted story and lore. One other interesting way is by its character designs and clothing choices. One design in particular that I absolutely adore is Saint Trina. Her upper body being a small part of the entire being, merged with one or multiple plants as she seems to be in a deep and serene sleep. But after we drink her nectar enough times and hear her words, we realize that her tranquility is all but a farce. Saint Trina is just one of many great NPCs in this game. Even though I did prefer the overall NPCs and side quests of the base game, we do meet a lot of great ones in this DLC. Just like Needle, Knight Lida, Achbach, or more, all of these NPCs add great insight and flavor to the overall world. Shadow of the Erdtree is an exceptional addition to the already invigorating journey of the Lands Between. Regardless of its flaws that I've been pointing out throughout this video, it's more than we could have ever expected from a DLC package. One that I hope other companies are looking at and taking notes, since most of the DLC content in other video games is a pebble when compared to the amount of content and experience presented in the Shadow of the Erdtree. It's a world ravaged by death and destruction that performs a great parallel to our own world, also ravaged by greed and hypocrisy. Yet beauty still flourishes in both of them, and no matter how fragile and small it seems to be, it is always worth fighting to preserve it.
However ruined this world has become, however mired in torment and despair, life endures. Births continue. There is beauty in that, is there not?